Hello students, today we will be studying the osteological features of interior of the skull, and in that we will be seeing the features of the posterior cranial fossa. Now this is the interior of the skull, and what we see here is the anterior cranial fossa. This here is the middle cranial fossa, and this is the posterior cranial fossa. So the posterior cranial fossa is the largest of the three fossae and the deepest of all, and it lodges the cerebellum, pons and medulla oblongata. Let us see the boundaries of the posterior cranial fossa. The anterior boundary of the posterior cranial fossa is formed by the dorsum sellae, the posterior clinoid processes on either side, and the superior border of the petrous part of the temporal bone. The posterior boundary is formed by the squamous part of the occipital bone. The lateral boundary is formed by the mastoid part of the temporal bone and the mastoid angle of the parietal bone. Mastoid part of the temporal bone and the mastoid angle of the parietal bone form the lateral boundary. The floor of the posterior cranial fossa is formed by the basisphenoid, basi-occiput, posterior surface of the petrous part of the temporal bone, mastoid part of the temporal bone, postero-inferior angle of the parietal bone, posterior-inferior angle of the parietal bone, and the squamous part of the occipital bone. Now let us see a few features that are seen in the posterior cranial fossa. Clivus. It is sloping surface just in front of the foramen magnum. It is formed by the superior surface of the basilar part of the occipital bone and posterior part of body of the sphenoid bone along with the dorsum sellae. It supports the pons and medulla oblongata. It is related to the basilar plexus of veins and the basilar artery. Its lowermost part has a few attachments. These from above downwards are the membrana tectora, the superior longitudinal band of the cruciform ligament, and the apical ligament of Dens. So lower part of clivus has these three attachments from above, below, membrana tectora, superior longitudinal band of cruciform ligament, and the apical ligament of Dens. Next we see the petro-occipital fissure. The petro-occipital fissure is the junction between the clivus and the petrous part of the temporal bone. It is a groove by the inferior petrosal sinus. Next we see the foramen magnum, the largest foramen of the skull, hence called as foramen magnum. It is located in the floor of the posterior cranial fossa. Its anterior margin gives attachment to the anterior atlanto-occipital membrane. Its posterior margin gives attachment to the posterior atlanto-occipital membrane, while its lateral margins give attachment to the alar ligaments. The structures passing through the foramen magnum can be divided into those passing through the anterior part and those passing through the posterior part. Through the anterior part of the foramen magnum, three structures pass. These are the apical ligament of Dens, superior longitudinal band of cruciform ligament, and membrana tectora. Structures passing through the posterior part of the foramen magnum are the medulla oblongata, all the three layers of meninges, spinal roots of accessory nerves, meningeal branches of upper cervical nerves, vertebral arteries, sympathetic plexus around the vertebral arteries, anterior and posterior spinal arteries. Next, we see the internal occipital protuberance. It is situated just opposite the external occipital protuberance. It is related to the confluence of dural venous sinuses. On each side, it is grooved by the transverse sinus. We then see the internal occipital crest. It is a midline crest between the internal occipital protuberance and the posterior border of the foramen magnum. The falx cerebelli is attached to it. Cerebellar hemispheres occupy the deep fossae which are seen on either side of the internal occipital crest. The Wormian fossa. It is a midline fossa at the lower end of the internal occipital crest, just adjacent to the foramen magnum. It is related to the inferior vermis of the cerebellum. Transverse sulcus. It runs laterally on each side of the internal occipital protuberance at the mastoid angle of the parietal bone. It continues as the sigmoid sulcus. It lodges the transverse sinus. Attached margin of tentorium cerebelli is attached to the lips of the transverse sulcus. The right transverse sulcus is wider than the left one and is continuous posteriorly with the superior sagittal sulcus. We then see the sigmoid sulcus. It is downward continuation of the transverse sulcus at the mastoid angle of the parietal bone. It ends at the lateral end of the jugular foramen. It lodges the sigmoid sinus which enters the jugular foramen to continue as the internal jugular vein. We now see the jugular foramen. It is located at the posterior end of the petrooccipital fissure. It is an intraosseous foramen situated between the anterior margin of the jugular process of occipital bone and posterior margin of the petrous part of temporal bone. It is divided into three parts: anterior, middle and posterior. The inferior petrosal sinus and the meningeal branch of ascending pharyngeal artery traverse its anterior part. The 9th, 10th and 11th cranial nerves pass through its middle part. The sigmoid sinus and meningeal branch of occipital artery pass through its posterior part. Next we see the hypoglossal canal. Its internal opening is located just above the tubercle for the alar ligaments on the medial aspect of the occipital condyle. It transmits the hypoglossal nerve, meningeal branch of ascending pharyngeal artery and emissary vein from basilar venous plexus. Next we see the condylar canal. It is inconsistent. Its internal orifice is located posterolateral to that of the hypoglossal canal. It transmits emissary vein from the sigmoid sinus. Finally, we see the internal acoustic meatus. Its inlet or medial end is present at the center of the posterior surface of the petrous temporal bone. It is about 1 centimeter in length and transmits the facial nerve, vestibulocochlear nerve and the labyrinthine vessels. Thus we have seen the posterior cranial fossa. We saw the boundaries of the fossa, the bones forming the fossa, and we also saw the important structures like the clivus, the foramen magnum, the other important features like the internal occipital protuberance, internal occipital crest, the jugular foramen, the hypoglossal canal, condylar canal and the internal acoustic meatus. Thank you.